Hey everyone, welcome back. So with this next video, I'm gonna show you a couple more fields, a few more fields that I've added to this invoice that you could also add to your estimates as well, but I'm gonna do it on the invoices because that's what's going out to your clients. I mean, they're both going out to your customers, I'm sure, but I'm just gonna do it in this invoices table. You can copy this over to your estimates. Um, it's actually probably better to make it in your estimates table before you make it in and before you copy your invoices. But if you already copied over your estimates, don't believe there's a way that you can do that over. You just have to recreate the same fields essentially. So this before was called invoice total, and this is a roll up from the services table on all of the prices for each of those services, um, for all of these services here that are added to your thing. So all the prices for each service, they get summed up, and you can see that here. This is sum values. So I changed it to services total. The next thing I did was I added a tax percentage so you can calculate tax. So let's just say, before I do that, the next thing was tax total, which is a formula, and it's taking the service total and it's multiplying by the percentage, and then it shows a dollar amount of how much the actual tax is. That's why it's called tax total. So let's say it's 8%. So it's gonna do $150 multiplied by 8% of $150, which is $12. And that's the $12 here. So let's just add in different percentages. Let's just add all this just so you can see the differences. The next thing I added, before I do that, let's go to invoice total. And essentially what this is doing is adding up the service total and the tax together, and you get a total of $162. And you can see that here in the formula, services total plus tax total. It's pretty easy arithmetic. And then, so this is your actual total here, and this is your services total. You could use this as a subtotal, and then you have your tax, and then you have the total here. And you can call these fields whatever you want. I'm just using these names as examples. The other thing I did was I created a due date for the invoice. You obviously want a due date. Something else I did that I'm going to show you here is I created a if statement, which is based on logic. If this, then that. It's sort of a cause and effect kind of thing. And you have to have a true and a false value. And then if those, so it's a binary kind of thing, but it's not necessarily binary because you can have multiple conditions within the same. It's called a nested if statement, where you have multiple if statements, and I'll show you what that looks like. What's important to think about as you're working through some of this logic is that it goes in order. So this is the first thing that it checks for, then this and this and this and this. So you want to make sure that, like, for example, if you don't have anything in the due date, you want it to show blank. But if you put this last, then it's going to show the first thing that's true, essentially. So you always want to put this first if you just want to not say anything if it's blank, because that's the first thing it's going to check for. And if it's true, it's just going to stick with that. It's not going to continue to check anymore. It's going to say, this is true. Okay, this is the answer. So I did that first. So if the due date is blank, then in order to put a blank in the overdue field, you use these two quotes here, and that means it's just blank. That's how Airtable reads it. The next thing is if the due date is today, and we've already gone over the today function, then put due today. If the due date is less than, meaning before today, put overdue. And then if the due date is greater than, meaning after today, then put not due today. So it's really important. So this is your condition here. This is what the condition is checking for. If this thing, and then this is the true. And then if there wasn't another if statement, you would put the false right here. You always put a separate a comma separator. Sorry, I was trying to think of that. So let's just say, just so you can see what it looks like. This is what a false, what just a single if statement would look like. You've got the condition here. Here's the condition. Here's the true. Here's the false. And you then use the parentheses to close the logic, essentially. So in order to do a multiple if statement, you essentially put the next if statement where the false would be, and you say, but if that's not true, then I want you to check for this other condition. And then if that's false, then I want you to check for this other condition. And if that's false, then I want you to check for this other condition. So it's just if. And then it's very important to close all your parentheses. So if you go through, you can see this first one closes the last one. This one closes the one before. The third one closes the second one. And then the last one closes the first full if statement. And then you save that. So you can see here, so 24th, today's the 24th. So the due date is tomorrow. So that's why it says it's not due yet. 23rd was yesterday, and it says it's overdue. 21st, let's put one for today. So 24th says it's due today, and let's just put March 7th overdue. You could add multiple conditions for this. You could say if it's 7 day past due, if it's 14 days, 31 days, whatever you need in your business, you can put whatever that is here as well. So to iron out some of this in your invoice here, what you want to change, so this is the used to be called the invoice total and is not that anymore. I'm going to actually keep this here because that's the services total. I'm going to search for invoice total. This is the invoice total. I'm also going to change this. Actually, no, I actually like that size. So this is 15 and 600 is what it was. So this is going to be the subtotal. Move my head over here. Duplicate this. I always duplicate stuff because it just makes it a little bit easier and faster. Subtotal. And then I'm gonna also duplicate this, and I'm gonna put a tax field. And then I'm gonna add the total tax here as well. Something else that just to realize is that I always center the vertical alignment just because it makes things line up a little bit nicer. So just pay attention to that. I'm actually, you know what? I'm actually not going to make these bold. I'm going to make the total due bold. I think that will make it a little bit more clear on what the actual total, I mean, they can read, but you know, oh, went out on that. So this is what it would look like now. And if you wanted to accentuate this even more, you could, you know, make this red, for example. Actually, I'm going to do that. So yeah. So let's go to the next record. See some tax on there. You know, something that I think might be helpful potentially is to align these to the right because we're using dollar amounts so that they line up nicer and by the dollar. It looks, you know, by the decimal, I mean. So it looks a little bit nicer. The thing I don't like about this is that the dollar sign is right next to the number instead of it like being way over here on the left. I wish it would do that, but it doesn't do that, unfortunately. And then also it doesn't necessarily line up with this. So, I mean, because it's not lining up, I would probably just put it over here. There are some downsides to Airtable and kind of its functionality. At least in Page Designer, there are other things that you can use that I would probably go into in a later video. But there's other extensions that you can use to create more customized views that I think could give you, kind of more of what you're going for. And if you have an invoice that you really like that you don't want to change, you don't want to change the look of it necessarily, there's a way that you can use that same format and essentially just use all of this data to populate that format. So if you're interested in that, leave me a comment, like the video, subscribe, share it with someone that you think is going to use this, because I know that this is definitely a useful tool for businesses out there. And yeah, so that's pretty much all I wanted to cover in the video today. I just want to kind of give you a brief update on how you can add some of these things that I think are really useful. Yeah, if you have any more ideas on what we can add to the invoices or what you think is really helpful, or if you have any other suggestions on problems you're trying to solve, let me know in the comments and I'll be happy to make that video. I'm going to continue working through this database and kind of fine tuning some stuff and bringing you some more stuff about automations. And then soon we're going to be getting into the interfaces. Right now we've been talking a lot about the data portion of Airtable and, inputting data and how to view the data and filtering data and organizing data. The next step is to, I think, in my opinion, is to create something that is a little bit more user-friendly, something that can be shared with clients potentially or with your team. And it's called the interface. And it's right here. And we're going to go into it probably in the next video now that we have enough tables, enough data, enough things built to where I think I'm in a good place to start building interface, and I can show you, how to add a new service, how to add a new customer, how to generate an invoice, and things like that with buttons, and to make it just a little bit easier, a little bit less clunky, more beautiful, those sorts of things. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.